Hey everyone, it's Sarah, the elder millennial.
And this is Bill, the infant boomer. Welcome to Strengths on Fire, the podcast for strengths enthusiasts who want to have fun while leveling up.
Get ready for a mix of powerful insights, unexpected stories, and plenty of laughs along the way. Hey Bill, you want to light these strengths on fire?
Sarah, let's light it up! I don't normally get to say it this way, Sarah, but I am excited, right? Good evening. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Oh my goodness.
Right. We are changing it up a little. We normally, for our regular listeners, known as arsonists.
The arsonist? Oh my gosh.
Arsonists.
I feel like we're going to be arrested.
I came up with a plan, by the way, for the name. The first person to come to me and say, I'm an arsonist, I love the cast, I think I'm buying them lunch or coffee or something, right? Only the first one.
Are you calling it a cast? Did you just call the podcast a cast?
The cast. Yeah, I said the cast.
I think people call them pods.
The pod.
Not casts.
So I love the pod, and I'm going in on it. So I'm thinking I'm buying
that
some.
One. I've only just got it. It only just landed.
It just hit. It just made it.
Just hit.
So we are coming. We have changed days. We've changed hours, and there's a reason, right?
Oh,
there is and we like our routines, but there is a whole reason why we did this, right? Right? Feeling it, Sarah?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I feel a little like imposter syndrome. How am I here in this seat interviewing and talking to our incredible guests? I feel unqualified.
Yes. So we have changed it up. It is evening for us because it is morning in Australia. And today, I cannot tell you how overjoyed and happy we are that we get Charlotte Blair to join us today. Somebody that means a lot to both of us, right? So, Charlotte, before I break in and have you talk about exactly where we're going today, Sarah, I have a question for you.
Yes, I thought you were going to forget. I was like, oh, look, it's his turn to lead, and he forgot what we're doing.
I cannot do that. But I'm so excited Charlotte's hopefully going to jump in, too, that I wanted to make sure we knew who she was. So
yeah, that activator with her is strong, so she's going to be in this conversation.
Did you notice before we even got to...
is strong.
Yes. You noticed before we even got to chit-chatting, she was jumping in. So I figure she's all in on this. We got to make it happen. Can you tell me, Sarah, within the last year, the best meal you have had and why? Was it the people? Was it the food? Was it the environment? Was it the experience? What made it the best meal in the last year?
Okay, so a thing you may not believe about me because I live in the Midwest, but my favorite food is crab legs. Seems super unusual, but as a child, we would vacation to Mexico. And I know it sounds really glamorous, but it really wasn't. My aunt and uncle lived in Phoenix. And so we would just go to their house and then drive across the border and stay in like basically an Airbnb house for the week with our family and friends. And so I would eat crab legs down there. So anyways, I never get good crab legs here in Lincoln. But I saw on social media this summer that there was this food truck in town called the Smoking Crab and Seafood. And I was like, I gotta go. So on a Sunday, it was raining. I take one of my children. We go to this food truck. And I get this crab. Everyone is frozen on me right now.
Oh, nope, you're good.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah. We can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I go to this food truck and I get this crab. It has crab legs and shrimp. It's like a boil, right? Corn, potatoes. And I go and I sit in my car and I eat it with my child. Now, my child is not interested in this, but I am like, no, I have to eat this. And it's so good. I'm devouring it. The way that I tell you, it was the best meal. It was so good. But I was so sick. Like, not throwing up, food poisoning sick, just like it broke the inside of my body, if you know what I mean.
Oh my God. How long ago was this? How long ago?
It was this summer.
Oh, okay. All right. And so was it the crab legs? Was it sharing it with the kid? What do you think was the...
I don't think it was the child. I don't know, food from a food truck, it usually tastes the best, but you are taking a risk. I took a risk.
Right.
And even though it ended up that way, I'm still telling you it was the best meal I've had because it was.
Best meal.
It was so good. Just,
I don't think I've ever heard it described as crab legs. It was like crab claws, maybe. But I was
really?
I've never heard of crab legs, so it must be an American term. It would be like, I was just in Singapore.
Yeah,
I was just in Singapore, and I was told there by another coach, "Oh, you got to go and have the, mud crab." But I don't think I've ever heard crab legs. It's like frog legs, maybe. Do you just eat the leg on its own?
Well, it usually comes with parts of the body, but it's mostly the legs that have the most meat in it, especially like a king crab,
Does it is the biggest claws?
Yeah, the claws come. Usually the claws come too, but it's crab legs. Crab legs is the term. And I will tell you, Sarah, I know I've invited you to Reno a couple of times, but every year my wife and I attend an event that our son contributes to, which is a fundraiser. And it is unlimited crab legs for the entire event. I mean, they are dropping crab legs every 2 minutes in the middle of a round table of 8. And you just, I want more. I want more. I want more.
Oh my gosh. I would be a disaster. I'm like a crazy, I have to wear one of those bibs. When they give you the bib, I have to wear it because I'm just like in there, like, I become a monster, kind of.
I'm going to watch Sarah eat now. Next time I see her in Denver, I'm just going to kind of watch the eating and
I wish you wouldn't because I'm sort of that way always, and I eat so fast. Like you give me a hamburger, 3 seconds flat, it's done. I'm on to the next thing.
Yeah.
I'm not proud.
Charlotte, I'll tell you that having worked now with Sarah for October 7th was our first drop, I believe. So I'm going to say now we're a month and a half in, and having spent some time with Sarah, she is the ultimate chameleon because I've picked up on about 7 things that I never expected or spotted. And then you think, oh, I've got to watch that. And then she actually makes them more adorable. Like you think, I didn't ever spot that. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, gosh darn it. That is darn right pretty awesome. Like perfecto, right? You mentioned Mexico. And the term perfecto comes up for you in Mexico because your wedding was in Mexico, correct?
Well, it was actually in the Dominican Republic.
Oh, sorry. It was, but I knew it was out
something new.
Yeah, and there was a perfecto term I learned because of something I found out about Sarah. She dared me to find her on a previous podcast. And
don't tell the people about this.
I can't. And it wasn't incredibly difficult, but I did track her down. And then I listened to it just to kind of laugh. And one of them was her talking about her wedding and how amazing the resort was and the great parts of the resort and the bad. And you think, how's that fitting in? And then they bring up the perfecto story. Everybody, all of the employees of the resort, if you ask them anything, apparently they would respond with perfecto. And you're like, oh, that's actually adorable. So I get to watch Sarah and then think, oh, wait, did I find the chink in the armor in there? And you never find it. She's always great, perfect, on point, and hitting what she needs to.
I don't know. I think that's a woo. I think a woo trait is being a chameleon. What can I do to make these people like me?
Are you a Gemini as well, Sarah? Not that I'm all about astrology, but are you a Gemini?
I'm a Virgo.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, Geminis often have that kind of chameleon about them. I eat anything, Bill. So, when you ask that question, what's my favorite food? I love food. It's my downfall. I love cooking. I eat anything. The only thing I really don't like is walnuts. But otherwise, the food doesn't really matter to me.
Right.
I love scallops, but that would probably be my favorite dish.
Good.
But I eat anything. So for me, it's actually always about the company. You know,
Yeah.
who am I with? What's the conversation? Shared food is my favorite. I'm a little bit embarrassing. My husband was really embarrassed when we first went on our kind of group date type of thing, like out with other people. I'm not very good at holding back. I come from a family of lots of kids, and it was survival of the fittest, and you just had to jump in and eat. So like if a lot of food gets brought onto the table, I'm not really very polite in terms of, oh, well, I'll go last. I'm like, no, I'll fill my plate up first. And it's just like
Raised by wolves. Sure.
Yeah, it is a little bit like that. Is you didn't jump in, you went hungry. So something to observe for me. I'm not very polite. And if there's one thing left on the plate, you know, I'll ask people and say, do you mind if I have that? But I'll always jump in and grab it. So.
Our dining is, I can't wait to now all dine together in Denver and just get a lot of views, right?
Just watch. Then we'll just start laughing when somebody starts eating and Sarah drops it down her front.
Oh.
Right? Someone's going to give me a bib.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so good. So Charlotte, I know I've already announced it. Charlotte Blair coming to us. Where are you coming from in Australia?
I'm coming to you from a little tiny town called Kyneton in Victoria in Australia. So it's kind of right down the bottom, closest to Melbourne. Melbourne will be our closest big city.
Gotcha. And Charlotte, can you so we've heard a little bit from you already. Can you remind us of your top 10? Can you tell us what those are? So as our listeners are listening, they can start piecing that part together and hearing it as you say it.
Spotting them. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
So activator, woo, command, arranger, positivity, responsibility, communication, maximizer, individualization, significance. And then I would say my dominant talents, I'll add on my other two, futuristic and self-assurance.
Wow. Excellent. Excellent. Let's see. So
see which ones you should show up today. Hey.
Well, I am very fortunate. I teased in earlier that you mean a lot to us. For instance, I know I've said this before in meetings and groups, and I'll say it in any meeting event, but I would be a fraction of the coach I am today without Charlotte Blair's help and assistance. Full disclosure, Charlotte is my coach. When I am as a coach, we feel that we need to also have coaches to live that life, and Charlotte has been my coach for years. And without her support and help and getting me started, I would have never continued on doing what we are doing. And I just want to thank you for that part of it, Charlotte, before we get you to break into it, how you got here and how you started. So thank you for that.
You are very kind saying those words, but I kind of feel like the fire was there. It's just a case of, yeah, Bill, off you go do it. And I loved when you shared with me, I'm thinking of doing this. And then one of the next conversations is, we've done this. And it's like, first of all, it was 18 months, I think. And then it's, nope, we've launched. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, she did. She put us on some rails, and then somehow we hit the turbocharger. But that happened in this case too, Charlotte, in that Sarah and I decided to do a podcast at your event. We were literally hanging out, talking. It was a group of coaches that were getting together. Charlotte, they're so good for, again, we got to give the YouTube shout out at 1307. Go look at the cup Charlotte provided each and every one of us. Sarah's showing it. And we got together, and just having that incredible consortium of coaches and people that we got around, Sarah and I started talking about what a podcast would look like, and we had both decided to do it. And again, because of your facilitation and helping us so much in staying together in the coaching community, this podcast again probably wouldn't have kicked off without your help in some way. So,
well, I love that too, and I think my woo arranger significance kind of loves that. And even when you said my facilitation, I remember doing a course one time. It was an advanced diploma of facilitation, and they described facilitation as making possible the wisdom that was in the room. And I love that term. And I think, bringing the coaches together, that's really what we're doing. We're making possible the wisdom that's in the room. And I guess you two now then starting the fire of going out and sharing more of that wisdom with other people. So, yeah, my Ranger Woo just loves bringing people together, and the significance loves sort of knowing that there's some sort of impact happening.
Well, and you're just so good at it, Charlotte. You sort of like become this like mother mentor for, I feel like, our community. You said, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make it happen. I'm not going to wait till it's perfect. I'm just going to get it off the ground. And clearly people love it because I feel like the demand for it is just so strong. And we're just so fortunate to have people in our community who see people are hungry to be able to be better at this, because there's so many people in the world who are interested in Clifton Strengths and interested in growth and development. And the people teaching it are also interested in that. So for you to have not only the gathering before the summit, but all the other stuff you're doing too, you're really doing a service for everybody out there who is a strengths enthusiast. So we're just so lucky we get to hear your story today, to hear how did you become this phenomenal coach, and not just a coach of the Clifton Strengths, but a coach of the coaches and everything you're doing now. So start us off. I'm just like dying with curiosity of how did you get here? What led you? What started this journey?
I first discovered my strengths, I was looking back, and it was something like 2009, I think it was. I was working at Verizon. I'd spent pretty much most of my career in IT sales working at Verizon. And I got to discover my strengths as part of a team workshop. An amazing friend now, Brian Bailey, he ran us through a little workshop. I remember taking my assessment. It was just the top 5. And I remember reading it and saying, yeah, sounds like me. And I didn't really do much with it. It wasn't until I moved to Australia and I attended, still with Verizon, the Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And it talked about what your mission and purpose in life was. And I realized then at some great big aha moment that I didn't want my mission and purpose in life to be Charlotte's a great IT salesperson and, she's quite fun. I wanted there to be more. So I started to explore. I was getting a little bit kind of itchy feet, a little bit bored with the kind of whole sales game, the IT game. And I said, Brian, I'm not sure what I want to do. I'd explored, going into management. I'd explored becoming a subject matter expert. And he said, well, I think you need to revisit your strengths again. So I dug it out, and it was at around the same time where Gallup had made accessing your full 34 easier. So I accessed my full 34, and it made so much more sense knowing what was beyond the top 5 for me. Mm-hmm. And then I said, Brian, I think I want to do what you do. I think I want to be a coach, facilitator. I want to lead programs like you do. What do I need to do? Will you be my mentor? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. I will be your mentor. And he was, a great sort of catalyst to help me explore that. And I wrote in the book, it was a really funny thing where he said to me, yeah, Charlotte, yeah, you can do this, but don't forget, it's going to take you a little while. Well, tell an activator it's going to take them a little while. It was just like, I'm not waiting for this one. Mm-hmm. So I went off and I did my ICF accreditation first. So I did my level 1 ICF accreditation. Verizon had this amazing program called the Tuition Assistance Allowance, where they gave every employee at the time $7,000 to go and get additional training in a field, as long as it related to your role or a future role. So I made my mind up. I wanted to be a facilitator and a coach, did my ICF, did that advanced diploma that I refer to, and then I wanted to do the Gallup. I was like, the more I found out about Clifton Strengths, the more I wanted to know about it. It was before they even had a course available for coaches. And then they said, I remember having a call with Jamie Libro. And she was like, yeah, we're just doing this course for coaches. So I was like, great, how do I get to Omaha? How do I get to do this? And then they said, well, actually, we're going to run one in Sydney. So I was on the first one that they ever ran in Australia over 10 years ago, a little bit behind the likes of sort of Ty and Brandon and Brent that were and Doug that were the pioneers. I was just behind that one. And yeah, the more I got to find out about strengths, the more I loved it. I then left Verizon. I wasn't able to use it in the same way as I wanted to. I really wanted to transition my career there, but couldn't. Had a bit of what I refer to, excuse the swearing, but a shitty boss instance, and decided that was not the right place and space for me anymore. And I left and joined a small learning and development organisation, which really gave me some great sort of training wheels around sort of facilitation, but still wasn't able to use strengths in the passionate space I wanted to. And then I went out for a glass of wine with a couple of other coaches who were on the same Gallup accreditation as me. And we had a same thought. It was a bit like probably the conversation you two had about starting your podcast. So I really want to do more with this strengths. And we go, well, should we start our own business? So we agreed to do that. We started the Strengths Partners together and, formed a partnership. Now, as it happens, one of them became ill and had to exit the business. The other one got tied up in a contract and she had to exit the business. So it ends up really sort of being me on my own. But oh my gosh, best thing I've ever done. Jumping out there with the activator, having a little bit of kind of funds behind me just in case, having a backup plan. I always went, if it all doesn't go according to plan, I can always go back and sell IT, but that never had to happen. So that was how I got into this. The more I found out, the more I loved it. And then I guess the piece about coaching other coaches more came about over COVID. I remember, Bill, you were in the room. I ran a session at the Gallup Summit on leading teams through change using strengths. And after that, somebody had posted on Facebook, has anybody got any materials on change? And I remember Paul Allen posting something on Facebook saying, yeah, Charlotte just ran a great breakout session on that. And I said, yeah, I can share some resources. And I had about 40 people go, oh, me too. Can you send it to me? And then it was like, well, can you walk us through how to do that? And I was like, I can, but I could spend all day doing that. And I get a lot of people come to me and then say, oh, Charlotte, can you help me with this? And I was like, I can, but I also probably ought to charge. And it was a very uncomfortable process initially. And profitability is my last BP10. It was a very uncomfortable process initially going, yes, and I'm going to charge you for that. But I've had to get comfortable with that. And I think that's where the coaching, mentoring other coaches first came about. And, I love it because you've got people that are keen to know more. They go off and become accredited and it's, okay, what do I do with this now? How do I start my business? So it's a bit of coaching, bit of mentoring, imparting what worked for me. And over the years of developing workshops and coaching and packages, it's like, here, this is what might help. Take what I've got and off you go. That feels like a very long answer, Sarah. My communication can talk all day.
Oh,
well,
no,
this is a
take it.
podcast. So
Yeah.
This is the place for it. And I love that story. Okay, you teased the book. For those who don't know, tell us about your book.
It's called Career Unstuck, How to Play to Your Strengths and Find Freedom and Purpose in Your Work. Bill Dipple features in it. There is a story about Bill in there. I was coaching at a big global telco, not Verizon, but another big telco. I had a contract to coach a lot of people in there. And I would ask the question, which I invariably do when coaching somebody, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you love your work? And I was shocked at how low the number was for so many people, like a 3 out of 10. I really don't love my work. And I'm like, kind of, what are you doing there? Now, I originally wanted the book to be about how to start your own business because it was so great for me. Oh, there you go. A bit of advertising
there's the book.
pitch.
If you're on
Thank
YouTube,
you very much.
see the cover.
There you go. And it was, I find myself sharing similar strategies, tools, things that work for me. Simon Sinek's Know Your Why. Understanding your strengths is so pivotal in understanding, what is it that you're passionate about? What is it that you're here to do? And when we think purpose, it doesn't have to be this grand purpose. It can just be what lights you up. What can you do at service of others? And whether that be like Marcus Buckingham talks about, making beds in a hotel. What do you really love doing? What are you here to do? What's your service? And enabling people to tap into that and loving work again, even if I can move them from a 3 to a 4 or a 4 to a 5 or an 8 to a 9. It's all about that activator. Take action to shift the dial and love work again. So it was probably more of a passion project, Sarah, of how can I share all the resources in one place instead of keep doing I'll follow up with an email with this. So it's a little bit like a choose your own adventure story. It's got lots of other stories in it, but sort of tips, tools, resources, frameworks, recommended reading that should inspire people to take action, to shift away from something they don't like to something they do like.
Oh, so good. So good, Charlotte. And I just want to ask you really quick. There's no way anybody listening to this can't hear positivity and woo just emulating from you, right? How have maybe those strengths combined with some others, but those in particular, kind of steered you towards the book, right? Which I love reading. And by the way, I grabbed it from the shelf here because I only have 7 of them and I keep doling them out, right? As clients come through, I'm like, you're going to want, by the way, rush to page 219. Don't, it's okay. But
I like that it's in his head. Page I know what page I'm on.
I hope it's right. I don't know. I have no idea. But I do have it. So how does that positivity and woo play out for how you migrated in and what you're doing now from the book to the helping other coaches?
Yeah, I guess where my brain goes initially there is the writing the book was on the list of things to do for quite a few years and it never quite got done, but it got done eventually and I committed to it. I think there was something in there for me being dyslexic. I was like, yeah, I can't write a book. How on earth would I be able to write a book? I could barely spell certain words. And then I got connected with a book coach, and everybody needs a coach. And she really sort of helped me get it out of my head, onto paper, out there into the world. So absolutely woo positivity comes through the book in terms of it's got a bit of fun to it. It's got some humor. It's got a number of embarrassing stories that I tell. I always go, what's the worst that can happen? Most of the worst that can happen I've already done. So, like the world's not going to, open up and swallow you. But I think about the activator, the responsibility, the significance, the maximizers all come to play when it came to writing that book as well. Mm-hmm. But I think, when you add in there about coaching, mentoring other coaches, for me, it's a lot about the nudging forward, but nudging forward with clear eye. So command, I'm not going to kind of, mince around with the words, but when you add woo and command together, it's it can have some clear-eyed fun. Mm-hmm. It can kind of push you along. It can give you confidence as well. Like, I love instilling confidence. I remember a coach came to me once. She booked in for a session and she kind of like went away and said, you just gave me confidence that I was doing it all okay, all right. Like, if I could book in with Charlotte and go, actually what I'm doing is good, hey, that's a tick for me. Because there are a number of people that go, yeah, I'm not sure if I'm doing it right. And hey, it's not like Charlotte's any better than I am. I was like, gee, if you can walk away with that confidence that you've got this, girl, get on and do it, then that's good for me as well. So that kind of, maximize a piece of, you've got this. So instilling some confidence into others. So that's probably a bit of that self-assurance as well.
I love to hear you talk about the woo and command. My husband has command, but does not have woo. And I recently coached someone with woo and command. And I was telling my husband, I'm like, this guy I met was incredible. And I'm like, he is so young. He's done so great at his career. And he was like, well, yeah, he has woo command. That seems like an unstoppable force. Like, if you can have the wherewithal to tell people what to do, but you're being nice because, the command can be the slippery blade. Like, but you're winning them over. He was like, I'm so jealous. I wish I had woo with my command because it really does feel kind of like a superpower.
Yeah, we call it Woomander. I remember you mentioned that you've got Lisa Cummings coming on. So Lisa and I were at, I think it was the first Gallup event that they ever had. And we were at Brandon Miller's mixer party. And she was like, no, I'm going home to bed. And I'm like, no, Lisa, come on to this other. I'm going on to another get together. Come on to this. And I'm not sure. It's like, you will come to this party and you will have fun. And she was like, oh, okay. She was like, you woo-manded me to keep going on down the street. I was going to go to bed. Oh. So, it's like it can go either way. It can, activate command, responsibility, can be a little bit more pointed, but when you go woo, command, woo, positivity, activator, we can have some fun and nudge you along the way. I think throw you off the cliff.
What Lisa didn't realize was because of the time change, it was noon for you and you were all go. You were full, ready to go, and she was like, "Oh, I need to bow out," and your woo-mander took over on a midday. I've got all this energy. Let's go get it out. So the way you sell it, the way you do it is always so genuine and so nice every time we get to deal with you and talk with you that I think no matter the reason, it is absolutely perfect when it comes from Charlotte. So.
Oh, well, thank you. It probably doesn't always. Maybe when I'm hungry, angry, tired, it can sometimes sort of show up not quite how I want it to show up. But otherwise, I think that's something that people say in workshops. They go, "Oh, I wasn't sure what I was coming into," and especially nervous participants that have maybe been through learning and development programs in the past that they've been sort of burnt and scarred at. They were like, "I'm not sure what I was walking into, but actually that was fun." So I like to think that I build a bit of trust and fun, but kind of a bit of direction as well.
Yeah.
Well, and it makes sense. You've got 6 influencing themes, 2 relationship building, and then those 2 executing. So it's like, of course, everybody who's in your orbit is sort of enthralled and interested and curious about you, because that is what you come with, that you were born with talents to influence, and then the individualization and positivity, right, to show people that they can trust you. I imagine that those come into play, and then you can get things done with that arranger and responsibility.
Yep. And the futuristic can only look 6 months ahead. I struggle.
There she is.
I struggle to look much beyond 6 months. I know what's happening of June the 1st, 2025. Beyond that, I've no idea what life is going to look like. But yeah, no, I love that. And individualization is a really interesting one for me, because if I look back at when I did first take the assessment, very, very slightly different results. I did take it twice. When they did first let you take the full 34, you couldn't do an uncover, actually, thinking about it. You had to take it again. I was a bit terrified because I liked the talent themes that I had. I was like, oh, what if they change? But the one that did change was individualization. It was much lower when I was selling IT, and I think because I couldn't really individualize what I was selling. You had these products and that's what you sold. And the same, I've sold photocopiers to start with. Photocopier is a photocopier. You could change the models, but that was about it. Individualization is such a driving force for me now. One, when I'm coaching individuals of what do you really want to make sure that you get from this session. But when it comes to team workshops, what are the outcomes? We see a lot on Facebook, and I'm like a kind of boring broken record when somebody says, what activity would you do for a group of 50 leaders? It's like, well, what's the outcome? What's the intention? Why are people coming together? What have they already done? And so it's like individualization is I know it's very, very high for you, Bill, and isn't it your number one?
It's my number one.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's such a driving force that I can't but help. But it was the one that did, that had the biggest shift. The rest of them were there or thereabouts. Like Woo was number one when I first took it, and then it was number 2. But I tend not to worry too much about the number, the order.
Yeah. It's number 8. It's number 8 for Sarah. So she's not, she's not left
Similar.
Out in the cold on that. And I also, because it is number 1 for me, I would point out when Charlotte and I started talking together and coaching, she was coaching me and helping me. She would show me her slide decks or say, hey, in this situation, I might deal with this group. And then with this group, this might be a bigger deck. This is something, but I mix and match these and I'm looking at them all. And Charlotte, I just wanted to shut down because your individualization was on fire, because every deck was unique for the groups, for the team, for the, how you made it. And that individualization just shone through on your approach and the people you dealt with, and that great care you took with each of those teams, and then how you would mix and match. And then what worked for you and I was, on my individualization, I started thinking, why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't we, as my number 1, that fuels me to be able to do that. So now I take, we joked about this on one of your virtual events recently, how I'll rewrite an email 6 times. Right. Honestly, just get it out. Right. They just need to hear from you. Just go send the email. It's might have one misspelling in it. No big deal. Let it go. And me, it's got to have the right tone, purpose,
I have thrown
where
with
it
me,
goes.
but anyway.
Yeah, that individualization shines through in that way. So, Sarah, I cut you off. I'm sorry. Where were you going to go?
Well, I was just thinking, because we have Charlotte here, and I'm sure there's tons of coaches and strengths enthusiasts listening to this episode. Charlotte, you mentioned retaking the assessment because you had to back then. For people who are curious about retaking the assessment and seeing something like individualization, you explained really well why you could see your individualization being lower when you were working corporate and how it went up. But, we really teach people that the strengths are your innate talents that you're born with. How do you explain to your clients and the people in your event what to think about, or how do you explain to them when they retest and there's a big shift in their strengths? What's sort of your coaching philosophy behind it?
Well, I think the first thing I'd say is, why do you think that is? So, ask them why they think there might have been a shift. Would be my first place. I guess I think even if I hadn't taken the assessment a second time and knowing that individualization, say I only had my results and individualization was in the sort of late 20s, early 30s, I'm a big believer of this kind of jelly bean philosophy that I've got, that you could put a number of different talent themes together and it achieves the same outcome. So it could still be my arranger, my woo, my maximizer, that if I put them together, maybe what's kind of, really understanding the client and trying to find the right solution for it. So kind of, if I think about that jelly bean, I always go, if I didn't have a tropical jelly bean, what jelly beans could I eat and put together that would taste like a tropical jelly bean? I could take a peach, a pineapple and a coconut and I eat them and that tastes like a tropical jelly bean. So I could probably still think about that. So often people do take it. I have one particular client that they seem to be sort of very keen to take it. And they go, oh, COVID's happened, so much has happened. I think I need to take my assessment again. And I always say, I don't recommend it, but if you really want to, you can do. And then if there's changes, what would you put that change down to? Well, now I've got kids, I can't be as consistent as I'd like to be. Things have got to kind of change, or now I'm a leader, I've got to think about the future, and I think that's maybe why my futuristic has come up, whereas before I was just an individual contributor and this has happened. So it's always about, why do they think the shift was there, and normally they can see a reason behind it. Is my first one. I think the ones that are, I was about to say amusing, but maybe amusing isn't the right words. But there's ones where you hear people take the assessment multiple times because they're trying to get rid of a talent thing. Mm-hmm. Yes. I remember somebody sort of having command, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't like this one. I took it again," and she took it 3 or 4 times, and it still kept coming up. And I was like, "You got to own this one now." I also love the ones that go, oh yeah, look, I took it again, and they're pretty much there or thereabouts. They just move around in order, which is why I say to people, don't focus just on your top 5, because what's at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 could be just as strong. It goes if we're only cooking with 5 ingredients, we can make a tasty dish, but it's going to get a little bit boring after a while. We're eating a really nice, crab leg broth, chowder. There's going to be so many different ingredients that go into that's going to make the amazing kind of taste, and it could be what's at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we've got to understand this whole dynamics of the dominant talent themes, and even the supporting that might be the corn flour that's thickening up that broth maybe. So kind of really understanding those, so not getting too hung up about what numbers what. When people say to me, oh, I was really surprised that analytical was number 8. I thought it would be number 1. It's like, well, where would you put it? Number 1. Well, there you go. You put it wherever you want it to be. It's the key kind of ingredients that make up you. But it's very rare that you're probably using just the analytical on its own.
Oh, I love that. Such great visual representation. And I also, just for my own validation, love that you teach it that way, because I also tell people, we need the whole picture, top 10, maybe top 15. Let's see where we're at. Because one of the things I was thinking when you said is someone who gets their top 5 and say there's no strategic thinking in it. And they're like, oh my gosh, what does this mean? And I have seen people unlock the rest, and 6 through 12 is green. And they're like, I thought I was a strategic thinker. And it's like, yeah, you were. Maybe they didn't come up 1 through 5, but man, they were heavy-handed in there. And you would be missing that whole piece of yourself and confused if you didn't unlock it. And so I almost never want to work with people unless they are willing to do the full list, because I'd feel like handicapped or blinded when I go in to coach them, because we're always speculating about what could be in the rest of the report.
Absolutely. I rarely ever use top 5 anymore. There's a couple of organizations that go, no, this is what we want to start with. We've only got a short amount of time. We're just going to do an introductory. And that's fine if it's leading on. But yeah, I don't think I couldn't look at a team grid, for instance, and work with the team only seeing the top 5, because just there's not enough information. But, like for me, even understanding what my bottom ones are, and my bottom ones are quite a shock to some people. To tell people that I've got input at number, 33, they're like, what? You've always got so many resources. How come you've got input so low? Like learner input, intellection, they're my last 3. But it's driven by something else. It's like the maximizer, the activator learns through doing and making mistakes, and I'm all good with that. I don't love it, but I accept it. But the input, I collect stuff to be of service to others, but that's driven by the significance, the maximizer, the arranger, of pulling those together. Yeah, it doesn't look like input on its own, but it's similar. So again, it's understanding the whole picture, and getting them to think about why, what is where it is. And if that's maybe not what motivates and energizes you, don't worry, move on. But if you go, actually, I think that is me. I don't understand, why it's strategic at number 34. Well, actually, there's a ranger and connectedness and something else that's higher. And it's like CliftonStrengths is not what you do, it's how you do it. So, what else are you using to achieve that? So more of that coaching conversation.
Yeah. And this is exactly why working with Charlotte is always such an eye-opening event, because Charlotte helped me go past 10, right? In the Gallup world, we tend to get pretty locked into the top 10, top 5 if you have a limited amount of time, which seems reasonable. But then, even on their paperwork, it is top 10, do this, and then past that. And working with Charlotte, I'm pretty positive. I go to 13 and then I fall off a cliff, right? I read 11, 12, 13 and I'm like, oh, but yes. Oh, it's so. And then I think I get to 14 and I'm like, oh, if that was me, I couldn't survive. I wouldn't make it. And it's a pretty quick fall off for me, and just understanding how we can expand that, just not the whole picture and how they all blend together, but don't just do what's on the paperwork, right? That's why working with Charlotte is good. Don't just dive into exactly what's there. Hire a coach. I know we're all coaches and we can say that. Hire a coach, right? Or if you're doing the research yourself, understand that you can really expand the offering and understand what's there in a much different way than how it's just put on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely the critical bit, isn't it? For anybody that we work with, having a coach to really help you understand what's written down on your report, what's there, and not necessarily taking that as gospel of, oh, these are my top 10 and these are my strongest ones. I always say to people, what do you think would happen if Gallup gave you that amount of information for your top 5, for your top 10? It would be a 46-page report. It would be a really overwhelming report. But it's not to say that 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is any less than the top 5. And similarly, what if you were to take the assessment again and like my futuristic at 11, may well then be in the top 10? Or am I now saying that is important when it wasn't before? So that's the beauty of having a coach really help you work out what's your dominant, what's your supporting, what's your lesser, where do you focus on that dominant, but pull in the supporting when you need to, and partner with other people, for the lesser that is just not naturally you. I think about, focus is 13 for me. It's the first of my supporting talent themes. Am I focused every day? No, I'm not. Am I focused when I need to be? Yes, I am. And invariably it's because I promised Bill and Sarah I would get something to them by X date, and my responsibility wants to make sure that I commit to that. But I've got empathy at number 14. Is it a driving force? No, it's not. But does it come into play at times? Yes, it is. So again, it's like some of those ingredients in the pantry that are on the shelf. We don't use them every single day, But, we can go and grab them when we need to. And the more we're doing this work, yes, the more familiar I am at what's at 14 or 15. But we don't all need to be like that straight away. And I think especially leaders get really hung up of, oh my God, I need to know all these 34 themes straight away. And it's like, you don't. You need to know yours, and you need to ask great questions to ask your team how they show up for them. Be more coach-like and ask those questions than feel like you need to be the sage on the stage or the expert of, knowing what these all mean for your people. You don't. They need to know. And as long as you're helping them unpack that through a coach, then that's great.
Yeah. We are just getting the truth bombs here today, and I am just so happy about it, because I think that this is sort of maybe to some coaches back to basics, but I think it's really important because I don't know that every coach out there is coaching this way. And I feel really passionate about what you're saying about top 10, figuring out where your dominant versus supporting themes are, thinking really clearly about the outcome in the world and where's that actually coming from. I think that's really eye-opening for people. And I'm in Nebraska, so a lot of people here have taken strengths because it is here, right? We've got Gallup in Omaha. It started here. A lot of strengths awareness here in Nebraska. And so I'll work with teams that have done the assessment years ago with a different coach. And I have to kind of explain to them, I'm going to coach different than you were probably used to, because most of them were taught to top 5. And I get people who say, well, this is my number 1. I can't believe this is only number 5. It feels so strong. I'm like, oh, no. Throw all of that out the window. Pretend the numbers don't exist. Yes. You just take all of those and you put them in your tool belt, and you got access to them.
Correct.
And it's just sort of is this almost like relearning of it. So I hope maybe we can help serve the coaching community, because I just think it's more powerful, because then it also is taking it off the page. We're not letting a piece of paper tell us who we are. We are taking control of who we are, and we're letting the paper give us some language and guidance around what that might look like. But we get to use our good old brains and noggins to really decide and communicate to people, what does that mean for me?
Yeah. I mean, I like asking the question of people when they say, oh, what are the chances of my results changing? And I go, well, what are the chances of you answering all 177, I think there's more now, 177 questions exactly the same way as you answered them 5 minutes after you took it the first time? Mm-hmm. Like slim. So again, they're just going to move around in order a little bit. But yeah, you take the number away maybe for that top, whatever it be, dominant talents, and you move them about how you want. You kind of get them out. But yeah, I was never smart enough at school to do chemistry, so I don't really do the periodic table bit, but I do love playing with kind of cooking and analogies and metaphors, and even thinking about a teaspoon versus a tablespoon. Did I just put a teaspoon or a tablespoon of chili in my crab dish and it's a bit too spicy, when actually it called for a teaspoon? And then what do I need to balance it out with? Do I need to add some coconut milk into that to kind of soften it a bit and blend? So I just went too hard with my command. Do I just need to add in some woo to balance it out? So I love playing with kind of cooking analogies and metaphors. And often if I start a group workshop, or I sort of started playing with this concept of group debriefs. If a company can't quite afford a one-on-one debrief for everybody, I do small group debriefs. And 2 questions I like to ask up front, which throws them a little bit, is number 1, post in chat, what's your favorite dish to eat? A little bit like you guys were sort of sharing. What's the favorite meal that you've had? What's the favorite dish? If we were going out for dinner, what would you choose? People might put in, duck laksa, or a nice, chili, or a pizza, or, pasta carbonara. And then what percentage of your report did you feel sounded like you? And I kind of come back to that one. So then we use whatever dish they came up with. We go, okay, how many ingredients do you think went into your, crab leg dish, Sarah? You go, oh, I think roughly 11. So then we start playing with that metaphor when thinking about explaining the, the talents and strengths in the report. Well, it's a bit like the garlic that went into it, or it's a bit like the whatever. But it's very rare that, I don't know, there's onion in it. You're not eating just the onion on its own. It's the mixture of all of those that make the taste. So I like my food metaphors.
Oh,
Well, and your communication is showing. I mean, can you hear the way you're able to take your arranger is like thinking of all of this in your head, and I just see your communication coming out shining with these metaphors to make it so easy to understand. Like the visualization, it really is so powerful. Again, no surprise, you are such a prominent coach in the business because you're just able to take these concepts and explain them in such a clear and articulate way.
Well, thank you for that, Sarah. And I do hear from other coaches, oh, how do you get to do that? You know, and how do you just know in a workshop when to kind of pivot and move to whatever? And it's like, well, it comes with experience, but also whatever you're doing now is not wrong. There's just sometimes, you know, maybe slightly better, or maybe just tweak, or maybe try things, especially if somebody's more, I need to know exactly what I'm doing and when I'm doing it. And it's like, that's okay. You stick to that. Just because I kind of like might go off in different directions, you know, that's okay. So I also don't want anybody to listen and go, oh my God, how'd you come up with that so in your head? I'd be like, well, I've had 10 years of being able to come up with that in my head. But, you know that whatever you're doing, I doubt is wrong. But, you know, start to practice and start to experiment with different things and see what you get. And that's why I go, you know, I don't mind sharing anything. Like take my idea and move forward that. You like the jelly beans, take that. You like the food metaphor, take that. You know, I think I've stolen plenty of stuff from other people and, you know, morphed and merged myself.
yeah. I would tell you that I have used your jelly belly slide that you provided me a long time ago frequently, right? Talking about how to create specific flavors. And I love that slide. And I love, again, pointing out, Sarah, the communication that we're hearing, because the instant throwback to the crab legs, right? Where, you know, it was there. And now, you know what? You want to make the metaphor stick. I'm gonna go with something that we already broke down a little bit, right? There's the individualization, the woo, that perfect communication, stepping right into to jump right on. Hey, I can make this metaphor really, really relevant. And Charlotte, I just am so always impressed that you do it on that quick fly. You're so good at being able to pivot and make that jump really easily.
Well, thank you for that. And I love metaphors. And I think that's why I've sort of started to create more resources around, you know, like the picture cards, for instance. And for coaches that maybe are listening and haven't heard, if they head over to my website, it's not supposed to sound like a sales pitch, but anyway, I'm going to put it in there. But if they head over to my website, like I've created a Canva template that you can go and create your own picture cards that are branded with your own details. And I love it in a workshop where somebody says, oh, can I keep this? And I used to say no before when I bought the Gallup cards, because I was like, I'd end up with ones missing. Now I can just reprint the one that they took and they've got my details on it and they can write what they like on it. And I love that. So I use picture cards in every single workshop that I do. And I've now kind of created that resource for other coaches to go, here is a whole load of questions that you could ask using picture cards, you know, on trust, communication, and collaboration, and breaking down silos. Because, yeah, a picture does paint 1,000 words. And, you know, we can, in workshops where maybe English isn't the first language, to be able to communicate through imagery is super powerful. So, yeah, that's absolutely how my communication sort of shows up in more stories and pictures and metaphors and analogies.
Perfect.
And it's so good because I always talk about habits and how you have to have a cue or trigger to get your habit. And I think so much of the work we do is you have to have new habits about how you incorporate your strengths and how you think about strengths and how you talk to your team about strengths. So your picture cards that you let people take, that is when they see that, then not only is it whatever the activity you did with them, but you're probably also cueing them of like, oh, this strengths work. And then the business side of it, can we just talk about the genius of having your information on there? So if they move to a different company or a friend says they need something, oh, we worked with a coach, you know, I don't have any of the worksheets or whatever we did, but I think I have my picture card because that had meaning to me and it has her info on it. I mean, just from both sides of the impact for CliftonStrengths and their habits and their development, and to help continue sell your business. I mean, we are here in the business to make money after all.
Yeah. Joe, I had a lovely instance last week where I was coaching a leader And it's an organization that's all I do. I just coach this one leader within the organization. I haven't done strengths workshops or anything like that. And in her coaching, she was sort of saying that she was feeling a little bit, sort of all over the place. And I was like, how do you want to be feeling? And in that moment, I said, you up for something different? She said, sure. So I brought up Deck Hive, which is the digital kind of card platform that I use. It's like, let's play with imagery. And she was in marketing, so it spoke to her anyway. And afterwards she said, can I access it? How can I get access to this? I've got a team workshop coming up. I would love to be able to use this. And I said, well, is your team workshop in person or virtual? And she said, it's in person. I said, oh no, let me send you a pack of cards. So I sent her a pack of the cards that I produced in these lovely little tins with a label on front. And then last week I had a call with her. She said, that was so great. And she said, I've also ordered this other pack from a company that we know of. And she said, but yours is so much better. And I was like, she said, I've got 16 people. I said, Carolyn, I'll send you another pack. It's not a problem. So again, now she's got 2 packs of cards that then, hopefully that will lead on to something else. And hey, if it doesn't, to know that I've been of service to that leader, for her to then be able to go and facilitate something similar. And already I'm going, great Christmas present to send out to my clients, packs of cards and a guide of this is how you can use it to keep strengths alive in your team workshops. Here's some questions, pick that off. So again, creating that so that other coaches can go and, brand their own cards. I've already the work's there, the Canva template's there. All you got to do is change it to your logo and your colors, add cards that you want to add. And hey, here are those questions. Rebrand that if you like. I don't mind. Use it as your own lead magnet. I don't mind.
So good. So good. Yeah. Well, Charlotte, we've heard about how you love encouraging and helping other coaches. We've talked about how that woo and individualization, but also your activator. Go ahead and tell an activator they can't do it, because we're going to do it. We've heard all of that really good stuff, but we started this as the Strengths Dumpster Fire podcast. So we have to ask on our podcast segment right now, give us an example of a dumpster fire from a theme point of view. When does a theme turn into something that you wish it hadn't?
Well, activator can do that many a time. Jumps into things too fast sometimes. And then when you pair activator with communication, sometimes I can sort of, talk too fast. And I always start off a workshop introducing myself from the lens of my strengths and saying, I'm activator, woo, can't wait to meet you, communication. If I'm going too fast, just tell me and I will slow down. So that can be a dumpster fire. I think the one that can also get me in trouble when I combine it with these other ones is that responsibility. Like, if somebody lets me down, I can get a bit annoyed. And then then the command might come out in the truth bomb situation, like, I was about to share something, I was like, no, that's a dangerous thing. Like, don't get me drunk, because you get me drunk, I'm either all over you, I'm an I love you drunk, or I tell you the absolute truth. So it's like, people go, I want to see Charlotte drunk. It's like, you don't always want to see Charlotte drunk.
Denver's getting better and better.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to drink. Because if I don't like you, I'll tell you. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This is good. So yeah, the responsibility, if you have, I don't know, diss me or let me down, then that can come out as a dumpster fire with the activator and the command. It doesn't happen very often, but yeah, because I get really frustrated when somebody lets me down. I hate letting people down. And I know it happens sometimes, but if somebody blatantly says they're going to do something and then they don't, and they do it multiple times, that can turn into a dumpster fire. I'd say the activator is the one that kind of gets me in trouble the most. And often for not checking emails, like I not checking as in spelling mistakes. When you said about, sending something out with one error, I'm like, mine have normally got 3 errors. And so I go, I'm going to send this out, blah, 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 boom, send, and it goes out. Things like that can happen in workshops as well. Like, I'm maybe too fast to give instructions, and they're not very clear instructions. So then, because I'm not a fan of slides and I don't often use slides, I do have to remember to have a slide with the instructions. Because otherwise, if I think I've really clearly articulated in my head what the group are to do, and they're like, well, I don't understand it. I'm like,
how could you not understand that? I thought I was clear. So I need to find a different way to articulate that. And it may well be on a slide. They're probably my main dumpster fires. I mean, there are many, again, Bill, if I think about so I was on a podcast recently. I wrote a blog on this. I was on a podcast called Success Matters, and it made me look up the opposite to success. And one of the words there that I really loved was bungle, like failure, bungle, like dumpster fire bungle. I was like, ooh, I like that word bungle. Like my bungles are too many to list. And yeah, they just become part of the laughing afterwards. Oh dear.
I think Sarah will tell you my bungling happens daily on our podcast. So this is just a good way to work it out. Sarah keeps me straight and online. Sarah, agree?
I don't know. I don't actually think you bungle that much, Bill. I think I've bungled more than you, especially recently. And Charlotte, I think this is true for you. Sometimes the imperfections make things better. They make the activity better. They make the people like you more. Our woos love that. It is the real life authenticity that people, I think, are so drawn to. And with social media, we have so much the opposite that I think it's refreshing sometimes when someone's like, oh man, I shot that email off too fast. Here's the PDF I didn't attach. It's just sort of nice to see like the humanity in it. And I think we're all human. We all are making mistakes. And I think as long as people can say like, hey, I'm owning it. Here it is. I'm going to fix it. You have that responsibility. So
there's definitely owning it. Like I've been playing this year more. You might have seen, I've been trying to do some videos and I'm like, I did wash my hair today for you guys and
it looks really good.
Yeah. So good. I've been trying for like 10 minutes, 20 minutes to not say we're having another great hair day on the podcast. This is if you're not YouTubing us, this is a fantastic hair day on our pod. So
But otherwise I'm like, take me as I am, and invariably I'll be outside and I've got my cap on and I don't wear makeup really anyway. So it's just like, just take me as I am. I'm always in the office. You can see the dog asleep on the sofa behind me. There's another one down the floor. It's like I've only got the flip chart behind me because there's a door behind that and the sun, streams through. So it's like, just I'm very much take me as I am, and warts and all and bungles and all. And hey, if I've really stuffed up, then hopefully I'll apologise. But it's something that's gone through my head before when I'm sending out. I've said to somebody, send out a proposal and it's got an error in it. What's a customer going to think? But that's why I like having that little statement in my email signature. I'm made by dyslexia. Expect curious spelling and curious ideas. So people go, oh, okay. It's not that she's lazy. But there is activator in there as well. Or sometimes I might follow up an email that says, oops, sorry, activator just got me in trouble. Hit send too quick, forgot the attachment.
Sorry. Sorry, missed that one.
Yeah, sorry about that one. Were you expecting any more, I was trying to think of a really juicy dumpster fire, but I couldn't think of anything like really, really big and juicy. And you've asked me that question before, Bill. I was on Jim Collison's Call to Coach once about my lessons for 8 years, and you asked me, what was your worst workshop or something like that, and I was like, I don't think I've had anything that's been terrible. I nearly lost my once with a group when we were going through their Q12 results, and they weren't having it. They weren't having the fact that their scores were lower in some areas. There was all sorts of denial about it, and I was trying to get a point across of this is important stuff to think about. But I nearly lost my patience with that group. But hey,
no, I just the way you see it and talk about activator. Activator is very high for me. I definitely know it gets me in trouble. Hearing it and being able to see it through your eyes is super effective for me, because I suffer from, I would say, almost everything you just talked about, and follow-ups and say, gosh, I shouldn't have done that. Wait, I sent that too quick. I've done these. So just affirming it and hearing it and knowing it from that side actually makes me feel really good, because I suffer from it. The fact that Charlotte might actually have that moment with it every now and then too. It's a little affirming for me, because I struggle with it. It is a tough one for me.
every now and again, it's like every day, Bill. So yeah, I think activators is definitely one that gets me in trouble. Command maybe less so, and I wonder whether it's because of the woo that I can balance it out with. I mean, yes, it's the one that's misunderstood, but I think it's the balancing that I can do. The one that does get me in trouble sometimes is what the picture my face tells me, or tells you. Sorry, the picture my face tells you is not always the story that's going on behind my face. Like I say, over here we talk about I've got resting bitch face. So if I'm concentrating, my face looks like I'm really annoyed with you, but actually it's not. It's just concentrating or focusing in. So people think I'm grumpy when I'm not, or they come up and they say something and I'm thinking about the answer and they're like, whoa, Charlotte's a bit sort of intense. And I'm like, no, I'm just thinking, it's just my thinking face. So people often read something into my face that's not there.
Wow. So good. So good. All right. So we usually, we like to throw a fun question at you towards the end of this. You ready? You in the mood for a fun one?
I thought you had been, but anyway, yeah, keep going. I'm ready for whatever you throw at me.
All right. So we're going to throw at you a fun question on this one. And just curious how you'd answer this. So you are stuck in an elevator with your top 10 strengths and a very bored cat. You have both, your top 10 strengths and a very bored cat. How do you keep everyone, including the cat, entertained?
So the other 10 people in the lift, my top 10 strengths on their own. Is that what you're saying?
Yep. Yeah. And a bored cat. That's a
bored cat. Okay. This actually happened to me recently with a client. It was a really cold day and the lift doors just would not shut. So we were stuck in this lift with the doors just going backwards and forwards. And there were about 10 people, but I actually don't think they were all my top 10 strengths. I was definitely trying to strike up conversation. I started, and this is probably what I would do. I started with a temperature bingo. I did this. I said, so it's a bit cold out there. I'm going to break the ice in this elevator. What was the lowest temperature at your house today? And I knew I was going to win because I come from a cold town, and it was -4 for me. And I was trying to get people to say, what was the temperature in the car when they got in this morning. Some people were playing the game. Some people were definitely not playing the game. Some people were clearly very uncomfortable that this stranger was talking to them. And we're like, well, should you shut up and go away? Because this is like, I don't know about you, but if I get in a lift and nobody's talking, as fellow woos, I find that uncomfortable. If nobody talks, I'm like standing there in silence is more uncomfortable. Anyway, I would pass the cat around. I would introduce people to the cat. I would go, who a cat? Meet Fred the cat. And it's like pass the cat. Maybe it would turn into a bit of a game of who could get the cat to smile or meow. But I think there would definitely be a pass the cat and a challenge of who could get the cat to react and look less bored. Work out who's cat people and who's not cat people. But yeah, I think it would be a bit of a game and a competition and a conversation, maybe like cat bingo of who else has a cat, what are the names of their cat, who can remember that. Depends on how long we're stuck in the lift as well. You could do that game where it's like, say, out of those 10 people, there are 3 that have got cats, but one of them's got 5 cats. You've got to remember all the cats' names. You've got to repeat the cats' names and see who can remember. I think my command would probably just, take over. Yeah, it's a really interesting thing about how they would all play individually. Maybe, person with individualization, we want to know more detail about the cat. The command person would probably just go, no, move on, pass the cat on. Communication, we want to talk about the cat. So, yeah, no, it'd definitely be pass the cat.
Pass the cat. Charlotte just maximized the bored cat, Sarah. I think that's what just happened, right?
She sure did. And she took charge. Are you often the default leader, Charlotte?
I am, but I don't have to be in charge. I would say I am a serial committee member. I have been known as a serial committee member because if something is not moving forward, I will step in, but I don't have to be in charge. Like I've been, chair of the PTA and chair of the local land care and chair of the whatever social groups. Especially if I turn up at a AGM or something like that and they're voting in a new chairperson or a president and nobody steps up, I'm like, it's not that hard. I'll do it just to move things forward. But I don't have to be in charge. I kind of like well, in charge is a really weird word. But I like leading. I like leading a group. So I go with that event for coaches. I sort of started signing off some of those emails of chief connector. I just love connecting people, but I don't have to be in charge. But I like arranging. That's why I love doing it with Karen and Tracy as well, because we bring different talent themes, but I think we've all got that arranger and maximizer in us of, how can we make it better? But yeah, I will step up in the absence of somebody else for sure.
Wow. Well, I think all of the coaches out there are so much better because you exist, and just your giving heart, your attitude towards sharing and giving and providing everything you do and know and what you're thinking with the community. It is such a blessing. You're just making everyone out here better. So thank you from all of us, because you are you are in the Facebook groups, okay? Like, hey, I have an idea for you. Everyone in the Facebook group knows. Well, Charlotte will say, what's the outcome? And I just love that. And it's like, you have groupies. We're here trying to build a podcast. We're trying to create a group of arsonists to follow us.
Yes.
And you are just blazing a trail and have all these people following you. I mean, you need to create a name of your followers, and it's everybody in the strengths coaching community.
There you go. Maybe that's a game or a something.
Well, let's do it. Let's do it in
yeah,
Denver,
I was going to say
right?
that's right. Denver, Colorado, 2nd and 3rd of June, 1st of June if you want to come along as well for an extra kind of add-on date of really thinking about the strategy and planning. So, yeah, I think we all woke up this morning to, depending on when this podcast goes up, we all woke up to an email from Gallup this morning saying they're not holding an event, a summit. So
we saw that. Yeah.
Ours is the only show in town. Is going to be in demand. So yeah, 1st of December, get your ticket.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I will be there.
We hope so. We look forward to seeing you there in person, Sarah, bringing your ever smiling face and your laughter and your passion and enthusiasm as well.
And I'll be there, Charlotte. I learn I learn so much every time we get together, and especially when you bring the big group. But even just you and I getting together and coaching and talking is always revelatory for me, in things that I get to pull from it and take. So thank you so much for that and the time that you put in on that. Do you want to, so I don't think there's many coaches that we know that don't know how to get a hold of you, but do you want to give a shout out to what's the best way to get a hold of Charlotte through the coaching network if somebody wanted to reach out and didn't know how?
I think the best way to connect with me is probably on LinkedIn. So to find me on LinkedIn, I do have 2 Facebook pages, so they can connect with me on Facebook. The one that's got my shirt with a green jumper that looks a little bit more professional. The other one, you really just get to find out what I have for dinner and what I'm doing in the garden and the fact that I've rolled my ankle. That's a pretty
I need
boring.
to be on that one.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
That's the kind of stuff I like.
Is it really? It's a pretty boring one. But so yeah, the other one's the more professional. But the other thing that I would say is go on to charlotteblair.com.au and sign up for my newsletter. So if you want to know that there will be a thing at the bottom of the page that's got, that website has, if you're a corporate, go and engage with me over here. If you're a coach and you want to know about the services that I offer of coaching, mentoring, here's what I offer. But then it's got a page about the community. So if you want to join the Connect, Learn, Share online community on the platform called Circle that we use and come and, regularly, like this morning, Antonio is running a session on how to use Menti in workshops. Every week we've got learning events. So have a look there. But at the bottom of the page has a sign up to my newsletter. That's where you get to find out about the events that we're having. You get to find out if you want to know my, blog posts or my articles that I write or the resources that I'm creating. You get to kind of find about it there. And if people are getting too many emails, they are welcome to unsubscribe as well. because I'm still trying to find the right pattern of how many emails I send and whether they're hitting their spam boxes. I know, Bill, you kept saying mine were hitting your spam box. I hope you fished them out now.
I do.
No, actually, you did tell me. You fished them out of the spam and you've put them in a separate folder called Charlotte or something. So
I do. I have a whole Charlotte folder now, and I've trained the system. Don't dump them. Leave them in the inbox, and I'll pull them into Charlotte so I can read them and see what they are. So, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So
but my email address, anybody's welcome to email me. I'm just Charlotte at thestrengthspartners.com. So they can email me. There are so many different platforms to communicate on these days, aren't there? It's like WhatsApp and Voxer and Facebook and LinkedIn. So email is always the best place to try and send me a message, because it's like my inbox. It's like I have to action it. Whereas sometimes messages can get lost in other places. So, but hey, if you're doing show notes, I will send you the best links. But we would love more people to join Connect, Learn, Share if they want to, like the membership there. Anybody that wants to come along to the event, they are welcome, but we will only have 150 tickets. We want to try and keep it that balance between intimate and useful. Not make it too big, but not make it too small. It's going to be an interesting trade-off. Yeah. Tracy's often harmony. No, let's let everybody in. And Karen and her relators like, oh, I'd rather keep it this. And I'm like, hey, I don't mind. But the venue that we have, we can fit in 150 people, pretty comfortably. We don't want to squeeze people in.
Perfect. And we will absolutely have those links in the show notes on this episode. They will be there. Also, we have a website that is attached to this podcast. And if you're one of our arsonists and you're out walking and you didn't have a pen to listen to write down one of these, we'll have Charlotte's information on the website part of this as well. So there's a lot of ways to track that down. So Charlotte, we will make sure to get that word out as much as possible. And thank you very, very much for being on today.
Yes, thank you so much for asking me. I've had fun, and I am thrilled to be an arsonist.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. And I must say, we better get going, because it's going to be pitch black in Bill's room pretty soon.
I know, look.
The night has ascended. If you are on YouTube, we are not going to see Bill soon enough.
Look, the window's over there. I can show it in the glass, but it's like darkening out. I will be lost soon. Yeah, it was pretty.
I saw your camera was even fuzzing out. It was like, what's the background and what's your face?
It was like, what is going on? So... we joked.
Well, thank you for flexing on the times for me, though. So 11:30 on whatever day. What day are we? Tuesday. I'm a day forward from you guys.
It's a Monday.
So thank you
me.
for flexing. Oh, there you go. So it's Tuesday here in the future.
Yeah.
I am happy we flexed to have you. It is an honor and a privilege. The only regret I have is that I didn't get myself a glass of wine, because
me too. Yeah.
We really could have done an after dark episode here.
This is our night.
At least us. The host could have been after dark, and here Bill is getting literal dark on us.
I'm going, but we could have had the wine. The wine would have been perfect. We've joked about it before. I don't know how we don't do it. So we're going to do a wine one. Charlotte, you're in, right? You're in on a wine version one?
Absolutely. Maybe we could do one after Denver or something like that, and have a wine one, or a live one.
We could do a live one in Denver.
There you go.
Yes. I think we're in. We're going to do it. So, well, on that, we're going to put all this together. We're going to make it happen. Charlotte, I cannot thank you enough. You have meant so much to not only this podcast, but to me personally and my coaching business. So thank you for that. We absolutely love and adore having you on, and I cannot thank you enough for coming all the way from another part of the world, right? This is a big ask and moving around. So thank you very much for that.
Oh, thank you.
All right. And with that, we will talk to all of you. We will rejoin with our arsonists on the next podcast. And so thank you so much for being here.
Bye.
See you later.
Thank you for joining us on Strengths on Fire. If today's conversation sparked something in you, be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review. We're here bringing you fresh insights to fuel your growth and ignite your potential. Remember, your strengths are powerful, so let's keep the fire burning.
And if you're looking to transform your organization through strengths-based strategies and coaching, reach out to Sarah Collins, founder of Collins Collective, or Bill Dipple, founder of Bill Dipple Strengths Coaching. Connect with Sarah at wearecollinsco.com, follow her on Instagram at sarahcoachcollins, or email her at sarah@wearecollinsco.com, SARAH. You can reach Bill at billdipple.com, Bill, DIPPEL.com, or on Instagram at Bill Dipple Coach, or email him at bill@billdipple.com.
Please note the opinions, views, and interpretations of Clifton Strengths expressed in this podcast are solely those of the hosts and the guests. They have not been approved, sanctioned, or endorsed by Gallup in any way.
Until next time, keep your strengths on fire and let's light up what's possible together. Bye, Bill.
Bye, Sarah.